Hello everybody, Baruch Hashem, we are Zocha now to continue to learn more of the great, wonderful words of the Lubavitcher Rebbe Melech Mashiach. By learning these and studying these, we're going to see more godliness, we're going to understand why the world is so special. And why we're at that, we'll be able to see and putting our minds into it. So Hashem gives us a special blessing that we see things, new things. You know, it's very hard when you start learning things like this, and learning different things, they seem so beyond us. How can we explain about all these different levels? But the fact is, and I know this personally from my own personal experience, and I've talked to other people, that it says, it's a very simple thing that it says, that when it says, when you come to purify yourself from below, Hashem purifies you a lot from above. So how much more so when you want to purify your mind, and you're doing this just to learn what Hashem wants me to do, and just to learn, because learning this opens the eyes and brings the final redemption. And just with that, and you put your energies in, Hashem makes it so that you start to see it in the world. It's an amazing thing. It's a special bracha. Maybe it's the essence being revealed, but it's very, very special. I've talking to other people when they're learning stuff, and they're like the person who translated the book. When you're in it, you see the world in a different way. I remember there's one of the persons when I was learning in the yeshiva. It's for Balchuba Israelis, young guys, around 22, 30 to 28 mostly. I was there just about 7-8 years ago. I was learning in Kolo, and I remember speaking to the guys. One guy, he used to run a machzan, like a warehouse, and he had a car and he had everything. In Israel, he was doing very well, but he was very depressed and this and that. He came and he starts learning, and he just learns all the time. He's just totally into God. So he said to me, when he goes home to visit his family and they're just working in the regular world, he says he feels like he's watching a video, a foreign thing. I mean, it's, it should just, I'm just saying, learning this will help everybody. Help yourself and help the rest of the world. Okay, so now we're talking about the 15th of Shvat. This is the 5752, 15th day of Shvat, and we're using this, the royal words, which is a very good translation, the only one that's available that I've seen of the royal words of the Rebbe Melech Mashiach when he spoke. And as you'll see, as we've seen before, this is so super special. So now we're talking about that. The day we're talking about, the 15th day Shvat, which is the New Year's for the trees. And the New Year's for the trees, we see in halacha that it says that there's a law that you have to give a certain tithe, a tenth of what grows, and different other tithes for different other reasons, from fruits that grow, like from if you grow grapes, you have to give a certain amount to the Kohen, some amount to the Levi, some amount you have to take to Yerushalayim, different times to explain all these different laws. So it says, so are you allowed to? So therefore, but you have to. One of the laws is you can't take crops from one year and take a tithe from that and say that the New Year crops that's helping the New Year's crops. You can't. Each year has to have its own take given away to holiness. That makes the whole thing more holy. You can't. So therefore, you can't mix them up. So there is a time when it's decided which crop does it grow by? So it says by the fruits in the land of Israel. This is on the 15th of Shvat, and therefore the trees that start to bud in the fruit before the 15th of Shvat, they're from the prior year. So therefore, those fruits that grow, you can take that and you can attribute it to the prior year. And the fruits that budded it after, that means you have to do that's on the coming year. Because that's the law of this. So the service says, the Rebbe is going to explain what this means, the service of man. And it explains over here, we talked about this, the man is considered like the Adam Eitz Sadeh, and man is also considered like part of God, and we talked about many different things, which you can go over it. Now, we just started talking about the idea of land, and that the land, that through working in the land, in Israel you have to plow the land a second time. Because it says, because the land is so hard, because it's not irrigated. So since it's so hard, you have to plow it once, then you seed, then you plow it a second time to get the stuff out. And what you get out, you get these special fruits. Then there's more than plowing, there's sometimes you dig. Like I'm just thinking how they dig for oil. You have to dig deeply to find like the gold and silver and the special things. And this is even a harder service. Has to do with the gullus that we're in. It's a hard or long gullus. We're digging very hard through the darkness. And then you even reach a higher level, as we will say. And let's go on and let's see. So right now we're on chapter 4, page 211. And more in general, including the service of man with the land, is everything with which the service of the soul upon its descent to this physical world is accomplished. So in other words, to bring my soul come down here into my physical body, and I have to accomplish what Hashem wants me to do. How is this done? This is done through the 39 types of work. Just like craftsman has certain work to make some, God gave us 39 types of work to craft the world in a place, make it a place for a dwelling place for Hashem. One plants, one plows. It's a total of 49 minus 1. 40 minus 1. Now the Rebbe is going to explain what's mean 40 minus 1, because 40 we're going to explain. 40 is the idea of completion, and minus 1 means that Hashem made us. We don't say. Why don't we say 39? Why do we say 40 minus 1? Because the idea is to show that the Jews, he'll explain later here, that the idea that the Jews, we're 40, we're part of God, we're complete. But Hashem took away 1 from us to make us not totally complete. And this taking away 1 is that through this, that we have to work with these 39 capabilities that Hashem say, to find out the deeper level. And we become 1, we receive that 1 again, but even a higher 1. So in other words, we were like God, but God made us less like Him, but everything He gave us, those first 39 things we use them to serve Hashem. Let's see how this comes out inside. The word 49 minus 1 and not 39 is similar to what is written, and you have made Him on a level slightly less than Hashem, than God. As the exposition of our sages says, there are 50th gates of understanding were created in the world, and all of them were given to Moshe minus 1. As it says, you have made him slightly less than God. In other words, when we work, the 49 gates of understanding, and this is that's why there's 50 days between Pesach and Shavuos, that we're reaching higher levels of understanding. But the 50th level we can't reach, because that's only come from Hashem. Hashem gave us everything but that 50th level. He made us slightly lesser than Hashem. It says 49, it says they went slightly lesser, not 39 minus 1, not 40, not complete. We don't have the level, the 50th gate of understanding. It's similar to that He made us that it says in here, let's go. So it says, 50 gates of understanding were created in the world. All of them were given to Moshe minus 1. As it says, and you have made him slightly less than God. That in addition to the fact that a person is only slightly less than Hashem, this is very interesting. We're like Hashem, it's a little bit less than Hashem. Minus 1 is indeed, this is the diminution that comes, that this thing that we became less is a special act of Hashem. That you have made him, Hashem specially made us to be a little bit less than God, and therefore this act, and before this act there was no lessening of us, no diminution, that we weren't less than Hashem, we were like that. So each and every Jew is on the level of Elokim Hashem, as it says in the verse. This is in Tehillim, we say that in Psalms. I have said that you are Elokim. And therefore, the Rebbe says, therefore that we are like God. And God specially took us to make us not like God. So that's special. We are special. That did whatever Hashem does something for you, it's always special, even though you might not understand it. But if Hashem is asking doing, so He's doing something special. So Hashem made us like God, and then He made us a little bit less than God. That's what we're talking about here. And I have said that you are Elohim. This is the verse that we see that Hashem made us like God. And furthermore, since the aspects of the names of Hashem called Havaya and Elohim are likened to the sun and its sheath, this is what we're learning about that says, in godliness is a level called Havaya, which is the level of Hashem, like the hot sun, the shining forth of godliness in a revealed way. But the creation would be able to take such a shining force, so therefore they had to have to cover it. Just like the sun, there's a sheath that covers the power of the sun. Maybe I don't know if it's the atmosphere, how it works, so that the sun doesn't totally reveal its power down. So it covers over. So that's called name Elohim. And Elohim is usually referred to the way how Hashem becomes enclosed in the world, the way of nature, how he works through the world. Namely, that the name Elohim is the sheath for the name Havaya. Thus, each and every Jew is also the level of name Havaya. Not only with the name Elohim, which is how Hashem comes and encloses in the world, but the name of Havaya, which is a level that's totally beyond the worlds. Let's look at 51. 51, we say, the name of Havaya is an aspect of Hashem which reveals godliness, similar to the radiant sun. The name Elohim is an aspect of Hashem which limits the revelation of godliness, so that its limited worlds can receive it. That's, we're talking about the Elohim. That's in the next mention. Now, number 52, he says, every Jew is the level of name Havaya. So it says, even from the perspective of the body, as it's known that the body of a Jew is in the form of name Havaya. This is interesting. And the most certainly that the perspective of the soul, that it has all aspects of represented by the 4 letters of name Havaya. So in other words, even the body has to do with Rebbe saying that the Jew is on the level of Havaya. That the Jew is on the level of Hashem, how he's above the world and how he's beyond the worlds, how he enlivens the worlds from above. That's too great for it to be revealed. He says not only is the Jew himself his soul, but he says the physical body is the level of Havaya. But this body you're looking at, look at yourself. This is the level of Havaya, this is the level of a God, how he's beyond the worlds. That's because it says, explains you have the hands, and explains how it is. So anyways, only that when it is descends, okay, so what happens? So there the Jews are part of God, a part of Havaya, the higher level of God, the super rational level of God. Only then, when it descends below upon the land, this invasion befalls it, and you have made him slightly less than God. So when my soul comes down, and the body, I guess, also comes down into this world, has to deal with the physical world, a Jew, his physical body with his soul, so therefore he becomes slightly less. He goes down into the world, and the world makes him, because of he's in the, I guess, a dark place, he becomes slightly, Hashem makes him slightly less than him. And this diminution, this lessening, this going down to a lower level, and you have made him slightly less than Hashem, than God, upon the descent below to be, why does it come down? It comes down to descent below to be occupied with all types of work of service upon the land. 40 minus 1. This is reaching for ascent. So why did this, the whole idea of 39 works that we're supposed to do to make the base of Mikdash, and they're not allowed to do in Shabbos, these are to work in the world, and they're 40, and this is why we have to service, all different types of service of making the world a special place for Hashem. And for ascent, as is known, that the rule of every descent is for the ascent to a higher state than before the descent. So when you read it Tzarich Aliyah, you go down in order to reach a higher level. You just don't go down and reach the same level. You reach a much higher level. Because anything Hashem does, at the end of it, it's revealed that as much that everything is for the good. Namely, the minus 1 is restored. What's it mean that you reach a higher level? That this minus 1, this that we were a little bit less than God, this is restored to us to the extent that a greater advantage is achieved, not even though now I'm even more than I was originally, with advanced vigor and greater strength, that one ascends to a higher level than even the level than the level that you are Elohim, and even a higher level than the name of Havaya. So because you took all the strength and energy working in this world through the animal soul, through the physical world, this gives you strength when we go back and we finish everything, things are more special. Not only special from the level of Hashem, it fills the world, Shem Elohim, but also even higher than Shem Havaya, which is the creative power that Hashem is beyond the worlds. So let's say maybe I'm going to look at 55, but we'll understand this. The footnote on page 213. So this is on, what's this on? It says over here, okay, it says, and this diminution that you have made him slightly less than Hashem upon the descent below to be occupied with all types of work of service upon the land, 40 minus 1, is for the ascent, has known that there's the root that every descent is for an ascent to a higher level than before. namely that the minus 1 is restored to 40. So 55 says, and we may say this concept is alluded to also when it says the land from which bread comes, including also the fruits of the trees and the 7 species from which the land of Israel was praised, which correspond to the 7 attributes, alludes to the fact that the general service of refining, to make the world a special place, of the 7 attributes, which in more detail is comprised of 7 times 7, 49. For each attribute is comprised of the other. In other words, you have the attribute of kindness, the attribute of severity. So in kindness you have kindness of kindness. Kindness you have severity of kindness. How you have beauty of kindness. So each different attributes of how we reveal ourselves in the world, by the revelation of our soul in the world, that you have 7 times 7, which is 47, which this is the concept of the 50 gates of minus 1. Remember, we're talking about that the idea is that you were minus something. And before we said minus something, we talked about the idea that 40 was perfect. And also we talked about the idea how 50 was special. And here the Rebbe is saying that by work, he's putting these two ideas together. By working in the world, therefore, and by working and using the special koach that is given to you by these 7 species, therefore we reach a much higher level. We reach the level of 40, back to the level of 40. The Rebbe has explained also in the level of understanding, which is there's 49 gates of understanding. The 50th is beyond our understanding, which Moshe Rabbeinu didn't receive until the giving of the Torah. He says that's also come here because we see that each attribute is comprised of 7 attributes. So there's 7 attributes, kind 7, which is 49. That means each attribute in all its aspects is completely purified, which this leads to the concept of 50 gates of understanding minus 1. And you have made him slightly less than God. And through this we reach the 50th gate. This is the special thing. We reach a level of 50 that's totally above everything. Of understanding, including the level that has no relation to the 49 gates of understanding. Now you start to understand things that has no relation to the world, that is totally beyond the world. And the land of wheat and barley, olive oil, and date honey, and a land which lacks nothing. Literally, it does not lack anything. A land that Israel has everything in it. That through the service with the 7 species, the 7 attributes, 50 minus 1, we reach the perfection of, what's the perfection? It does not lack. What's it mean, not lack? Since kol, it has anything and everything in it. When you say kol in Hebrew, is the everything is chav lamed is the gematria of 50, the numerical value of 50, which is the same idea that the land we reach a perfection. However, we have everything kol, which means we have the 50 gates of understanding. Okay, let's go further. So let's start from the beginning of this paragraph again. And this resulting in the lessening that you have become slightly less than Hashem upon the descent below to be occupied with all types of work of service upon the land, 49 minus 1, is for the ascent, as known that the rule that every descent is for an ascent to a higher state than before the descent. Namely, that the minus 1 is restored to 40 to the extent that a greater advantage is achieved with advanced vigor and greater strength, that one ascends to a higher level than the level of you or Elohim, and even the level of the name of Ayah. Now we're in chapter 5. And we may say, and we may add, the Rebbe has explained something new, and explained the aspects of the service of man which the 7 species symbolize in a similar vein, and based on what is explained in the Likutei Torah and Arizal, wheat, barley, wine, figs, pomegranates, and afterwards it says the land of olive and date tree. In other words, in the pasuk it says there are 7 species, but it says the land of 5 of them, which is wheat, barley, wine, grapes, this is vine, not wine, vine or grapes, figs and pomegranate. And then it says the word land again, and then it has 2 more things. It has an olive oil, and it has date honey. It says honey, which is date honey. So the Rebbe is going to explain all of these things, how they interrelate and how they're placed, and what that means. The wheat. What time is it?
Yeah, 20.
I've done 20? Okay. Wheat. So what's wheat? Wheat is the first one. Wheat is the food for humans, which becomes part of one's flesh and blood. This hints to our loads to the service related to the godly soul found in each and every Jew, the human aspect within him. Each and every, what's interesting, the Rebbe says the human aspect within him is this godly soul. That's being human. Anyways. And barley, so barley is the next one. It says wheat and barley, the land of wheat and barley. That's food for animals. As is related in the Talmud, that when he told them the barley grew, so the Rebbe is proving from Talmud, that he told them the barley grew well, they told him to go tell this to the horses and the donkeys, because barley is for animals. Alludes to the service related to the animal soul found in each and every Jew. The animal soul aspect within him, which conducts a person's physical aspects and desires. And the service is in refining them and using them for holiness. In other words, the first one is the food for the divine soul. The second one is the food for the animal soul. What's it mean, the food for the animal soul? We're supposed to change the animal soul that it should only do what Hashem wants, to become refined, that it should only be used for holiness. There's advantage in there. It's in the big advantage in the animal soul. It says that Rov Tavus B'Kol Chashor. It says that when you have much more grain. When you take an ox and you use the ox to plow, you get much more grain. So similarly, that animal soul has a certain power in it, a certain strength in it, that if that's used for godliness, it reveals more godliness. It reveals more Hashem in the world. A wine. So next one it says vine, not wine, vine. And what vine means, great wine, which means we're talking about wine. It says, my wine which rejoices Hashem and Anashim. He says that when you drink wine, it brings happiness. It has to do with bringing happiness, which alludes, it points out, alludes to adding joy to all aspects of service to Hashem. So if we feel happy, we should add joy in serving God spiritually. The godly soul should be more happy, as well as aspects of the Anashim. It says, what's Anashim? Anashim means the weak ones. And in the verse it says, wine that gladdens the heart of Enush. So on Enush, in terms of weak ones, that the person's weak. He's downtrodden from the gullus. He just can't take it anymore. All the problems and everything, it's very hard on him. So what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to go to take the drink of wine. You're supposed to take the godly drink of wine. And you're supposed to be happiness no matter whatever you're doing, because everything you're doing, whatever you are, it's Hashem put you there, and everything you're doing to serve Hashem it's wonderful. It says wine gladdens the heart of Enoch, is a term for weakness. It says in 62, it says, since Enosh has two meanings, but the first meaning is person and the second meaning is weakness. Okay, so therefore, as it's seen in the verse, that the heart is very crooked at Enosh, that this refers to the animal soul. So therefore, you should bring joy of service of God in all service, in both the service of refining the world through your animal soul, and refining your animalness desires they should be doing just desires for Hashem, do holy things, and also you're refining above your service of the soul and praising Hashem and doing it's holy work and revealing godliness in the world. Now we come after barley. Now we have the food for the soul, food for the animal soul, food for the divine soul, food for the animal soul. And then we had that the wine, which gives happiness in your service of God and all levels. Next, we come to the fig. Now, the fig, Rebbe is going to explain about is that you have the soul and you have the powers of the soul. That's what we're talking about, the attributes. And in the soul, then you have what's known as the clothing. These are clothing. You have the clothing. What's the clothing of the soul? The clothing of the soul is how it represents the outside. And that talks about in Chassidus and many other places is man's thought, speech, and action. These are the clothing for the soul. So it says the idea from the fig, the Rebbe is going to explain, is it has to do that Adam and Chava made clothing from the fig tree, from the fig leaves. And so what did they do? They made clothing. So what did they do with the clothing? They made it to cover themselves, and they refined it so they could work and do things in the world. So their thoughts, that's were proper. He explains over here that there was Rebbe Meir in his Torah. He changed the clothing, skin. It says they had skin on the skin, special skin, for clothing for them. So it's easy. Skin is usually with an ayin, which is it's more of a negative thing. But Rebbe Meir put it with an aleph, or light. And the whole idea is to bring the light of godliness into the world and to change what would be this klipa, what has good and bad in it, which is the source where good and bad goes through, and change it to only good, and change it to its revealed source of beauty. Let's look at inside and see if we can understand. I say a fig, as a verse says, and he sowed fig leaves, and he made girdles for them. And the verse continues that he made them tunics, and he made clothing of ore of skin, and he clothed them. So, as it signifies the service of refining the clothes, which is thought, speech, and action of a man, of a person. So that after and in addition to the service with a person himself, the I'm better, including the complete refinement in the matter of the tunics of the ore, which means how a person represents himself and seen by the outside, so how he brings himself in the outside world, not just in his own self. With an aleph, it says that or should be with an aleph, as in the Torah of Rebbe Meir. And it says that the vav has to do with drawing down light, we're going to see, and which alludes to the light. What's it mean? Which the light alludes to the master, the Ulufia Olam, that Hashem is all light, that the Ulufia Olam is or, and the revelation, and as it is, the revelation of the master of the world is down through the vav. So you have the aleph, which is light, and then you have the next letter of or, which is the vav, which is drawing down Hashem into the world. To how far is it Hashem brought down to? He's brought down to the Reish. Reish is known as Rash. It's known as it's desolate. It's up to a level of being. It's even more than being poor. So therefore, Hashem is brought down all the way into this world, which was desolate from revelation of godliness. And similar in the service of man, that the light of each and every Jew is so great that it even affects the clothing, that they become tunics of light. That's maybe. In other words, when we're doing what Hashem wants, which we've already done, therefore our clothing, we become you shine. Even your clothing shine. Not only do you shine, but your clothing shine. Let's see what he says in 68, the footnote bottom 215. Also included is the advantage of transforming. Also included is the advantage of transforming darkness into light, that we transform ore with an iron skin of the first snake into ore with olive light. So the first snake, what they're going to explain, is the source of impurity. And his skin is called in Hasidus. There's what's known as holiness, explains, and then there's what's known as evil, which they call the three impure klipas, coverings of impurity that you can't elevate, that you have to push away. And then there's what's known as klipas noga, which has good and bad in it, which is like food that you can eat and things you can do. But if you do it for good, you elevate it. If you do it for bad, you bring it down. And this is known as the skin of the snake. So therefore, the skin of the snake, with not being touched, has its animal desires. Your animal body, with not having the help from the divine soul, would just go for its desires and wants. And so therefore, by doing the avoda, that you not only change yourself inside, but your skin becomes the skin of light. That the skin of the snake becomes revealed, that it's only the good part. That's what he says. He says the snake itself represents, let's go from the beginning. Also including the advantage of transforming darkness into light, that we transform ore with an iron skin of the first snake into ore with an olive of light. The snake itself represents impurity, and the mere skin of the snake represents intermediary between holiness of the godly soul and impurity. This is known as klipas noga, which at first it is the skin of the snake. It has relationship negativity, like we just talked about. However, through our service, we transform it into light. In our case, this seems to refer to the physical body or the garments of the animal soul, which the source is klipa noga. So we turn the animal soul and the physical body into light. So that's the idea from the fig, has the idea of transforming everything in the world through our work, that we transform, and it affects even how we interact in the world. Then we get to pomegranate. Now pomegranate, they are full of mitzvahs, the commandments like a pomegranate. It says that each Jew is full of mitzvahs like a pomegranate, is full of seeds. Signifies, there's an interesting footnote. It says, note that it says in the sacred books, Malbim on the verse Shir Shirim, this is number 70 on page 216, that the number of seeds of a pomegranate is 613, corresponding to 613 commandments. And there are those that say that the number of seeds is 248. So when you open up, we should either find 613 or 248. Huh? So therefore, it's the 248 represents the positive commandments, or 363 represents the negative commandments, which were fulfilled by refraining from the negative things. So therefore, what's the idea from the pomegranate? So we may say, so the Rebbe said, and pomegranates, they are full of, that the Jews are full of mitzvahs, commandments like pomegranates. This signifies the service of refining the matters of the world with which the mitzvahs are fulfilled with, because we do mitzvahs of physical things that are lower level than clothing. Clothing is part, like clothing is like part connected with mitzvahs, is separate physical things, physical objects. And we may add, the Rebbe says, special, additionally, understanding concept of mitzvah service, that with explaining that the reason for the use of the analogy of pomegranate specifically, in which each seed is separated from the other seeds, not with a foreign matter, rather by the means of the pomegranate itself, the flesh of the pomegranate. So in other words, the pomegranate, everything, why do we use the parable and compare the Jew to a pomegranate? Okay, because each seed is separate by itself, but it's covered by the pomegranate. It's covered by, each Jew is covered by God, is one with God. We're all Jews, but we have all different seeds, but we're connected to one another. Similarly, with regard to mitzvahs, that mitzvahs are not to be done bundles. An example is that one should not recite Kiddush over the same cup of wine that one used for blessing after meals. There's a custom by the law also that after when we bless with 3 people, 10 people, we bless on a cup of wine, when we bless Hashem after the meal. This cup of wine was used for a mitzvah, so we should not make Kiddush on this cup of wine, because you're not supposed to combine one mitzvah with another. Meaning that every mitzvah is done individually, separate from the other mitzvahs, and its separation is not with a foreign matter, God forbid, rather by the commandment of the Torah. The Torah commanded us to do this. Similarly to the separation of the pomegranate seeds, that one from another by means of the pomegranate flesh. And likewise with regard to the matters of the world, with which the mitzvahs are fulfilled, and they all, and with this, when we fulfill it with different mitzvahs, they all, and also their separation from the mitzvahs is due to the commandment of the Torah. What the time is it? 32. And in accordance with this, the above explanation, it is understood that the order of wheat, barley, and wine, fig and pomegranate, and service of Hashem is far easier from easier to harder. Wheat, each service is harder. First is the wheat, and afterwards barley, since the service with the godly soul is easier than the service with the animal soul. Then afterwards we have the idea of wine, the vine, which is wine. We have to add joy in our service of Hashem, both the godly soul and the animal soul. After that we go to another level. We have to refine how we act in the world, our clothing. And that's the idea of the fig, which refers to refining all matters in the world, and with which the mitzvahs are fulfilled. Now, and after the fig, which is the clothing, then we come to the level of refining the matters of the world, which refers to the pomegranate. So this is it for today. Tomorrow we're going to go into some more beautiful things. Zaygus to everybody. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful night. And as always, Mitzvah Hashem should take us, especially the schools of such as holy children, learning such holy words from the Rebbe Melch Mashiach. With this schools, we should be right away in the third base of Megdash.